Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. I hope my voice will hold out. This is Dean Tinney, aka the Series 7 Guru, coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas with our very special Tuesday edition of our weekly live stream Q&A. Tell us what series exam you're taking and where you are joining us from. And I'll take care of some housekeeping, and then we'll answer any questions about content, fun, fellowship. And this is coming up on our third anniversary. I started the channel 3 years ago as a New Year's resolution on December 27th to have a direct connections with test takers, because prior to that time, I had actually been a guy who travels to corporate campuses and delivers old-fashioned stand and deliver whiteboard kind of lecture versions of series cram courses. And when COVID hit, I said, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to teach a live class again. And I thought, well, I need to make a direct connection with test takers. And the YouTube channel was the solution to that. Never in my wildest dreams did I think we would cross 3 million views and coming up on 26,000 subscribers and 700,000 watch hours. I mean, I had no idea. So been quite the ride indeed, quite the ride indeed. So if you do have a question, let me just take care of some of this stuff. If you do have a question, it would be helpful if you put it with a Q. Tell us what exam it is and then your question. That way I'm not trying to mess around with like, okay, is this the SIE or something? Because how things are tested are much different. I just finished up a 24 two-day class today, and we kind of ran over, and then we were going over investment banking towards the end, and the investment banking complexity on a 24 is an entirely different question in tone and nature than is, Series 7, for example. And then that also helps if you're chatting with the victorious test takers or somebody else. It helps me in that regard as well. I have not been able to finish up our SIE podcast series. The new episode is up, and I got one more, and it's on regulatory framework, and I just haven't had a chance to get that done between tutoring and teaching and fighting off a cold and getting construction done on my off the grid location. So that should be up soon. I'm gonna probably go off grid tomorrow, and I'll finish that up and get that posted, I hope, next week sometime. Brian and I don't know where my partner in crime is this evening, my wingman. We're working on a 66 exam podcast series, and the holidays kind of interrupted that. So we should get that back and on track pretty quickly. If you're buying a Kaplan as a paid supplement or Test Geek, Brian as a paid supplement, the discount code for Kaplan is Guru15. That's 15% off on any Kaplan products or Sivers. I recommend Kaplan's QBank if you don't have it already as a paid supplement. And then Brian has been kind enough to provide a 20% discount on his content to our viewers as well. We do a lot of the live streams are available as a podcast, and some of our other episodes on podcast series are not only available on the YouTube channel, they're also available on Spotify. If you are using the channel, the best way to kind of find things is to find your series playlist. For the SIE example, on the homepage or the playlist, there's 3 of them. They are labeled playlist 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. And, they're in suggested watch order. So for the SIE, it would be lectures, and then practice tests and practice exams and podcast series. On the Series 7, there's 7 of them. There's 7 playlists. And again, the videos within the playlist are also in suggested watch order. So that's the best way if you want to binge. If you're looking for a particular topic, just go to the channel search bar, put accrued interest or margin, whatever you're looking for, and hit that. And then, that particular subject will come up in the content we have. So, sometimes, do you have this? I go, I certainly do. And here's how you find it. So we have a drawing for coaching call. We do that at the end of the session, and you need to claim that within 1 hour by sending him an email. I try and be flexible. I think whoever won it last time said, could they do it after the new year? And I'm fine with that. I just don't want to have a floating, contingent liability with somebody. So that's how that works. Okay, let's see what we got going on in chat. Carla, 66 tomorrow. Okay, well, get a good night's sleep, particularly on these NASA exams. As you know, I always say RTFQ and RTFA. And what that means is, read the full question, particularly on these NASA exams. and read the full answer set. Make sure you're clear what you're being asked. Make sure you're clear on what the answers being offered are. So we're sending you good test vibes for tomorrow. Just had somebody call me today and they just passed. I was so excited for her. I felt bad because I was trying to finish up this 24 class, and for some reason she came up in my phone as somebody different. So it was kind of rude. Good evening, Isaac. Good evening. 65 third time. Well, Casey, that's how sweet the victory is going to be, right? Third time. Oh, there's my partner in crime. Hey, what's up, my friend?
Merry Christmas.
I don't care what the people said in chat, Brian. I think you're an okay guy. I'm teasing you. Well, Casey, that victory is going to be much sweeter when you get it done on that third time. So February 2nd, you got plenty of time. So I don't know what your study plan is, but I joke the difference in comedy and tragedy is timing. If there was just an Act 6, Scene 1, everybody on the stage would still be alive. And so, here you would have plenty of time. Now, I would warn you, study plans, as you know already, tend to collapse on you. So about 7-10 days out, we want to start getting some marks, do some practice questions, get a mark. There it is, Marcel. Hello, from Kenner, Louisiana. I always tell Mom, Marcel said hi. Mom is out. She gave me this cold I got, and I'm so mad at her and her senior friends because my mom came home with one of her senior friends, and my mom said, "Oh, she said she's not contagious." I go, "Mom, then take me down, and problem." I'm getting better. I actually, Brian, yesterday I was teaching a 24 class. I've never had this happen. About 30 minutes before class ended, my voice went. I started coughing and sneezing, and I was trying to kill the thing, and I finally just said, "Listen, I don't know if I'm going to recover from this, and I don't want to have you guys wait." And I just made a command decision to just end that class 30 minutes early rather than trying to deal with that. And, I called Kaplan and I said, "Hey, I got proof. Watch the video. You tell me if you think I should have finished that class." Right? So we got it done.
I've done the last day of Series 7 with laryngitis.
Oh my God. Well, the problem is we went, Brian and I have a very good work ethic. So I'm sure Brian's like me. It's not like I have somebody calling sick to, right? So it's like, maybe someday I'll call Brian. Hey, Brian. SIE tomorrow, Christopher. I just love when people get that first testing victory under the belt. That's the way to start. 1-0. We're sending you good test vibes. I don't know how you're feeling about your practice test scores, but knock it out. I always tell people overlearn that SIE because it will certainly pay dividends on the next leg of your testing journey. What is the next leg of your testing journey after tomorrow's testing victory? Are you going to take a Series 6? Are you going to take a Series 7? Or are you just taking the SIE for the thrill of it? Nima, hi, Dean. Thanks so much for all your content, what you do. I saw your response this morning. I'm not sure what my response was. And took another SIE practice exam today and scored 77. Wow, I love it. Love it. Love it. I love it when people get out of that danger zone. I call it the margin of safety. And I have somebody who passed today, and I have somebody who's I was working with, and it's just such a thrill when somebody works so hard and is dedicated and disciplined and organized, and they're not getting the feedback they're expecting, and then all of a sudden they do take that jump. I mean, she literally jumped, Ryan, from like low 70s to 80s.
Wow.
And and I said, well, we don't want to go backwards. And she said, well, should I take another one? I go, well, it depends, right? I mean, if you feel good and you don't have confidence, then I don't want you taking it because I don't want you going backwards because you're testing the next day. And anyway, she took another one, got an 84, and I just was so proud of her. I mean, she was just, pouncing. By the way, listen, we got to tell you this. You just need to pass. She's still beating herself up over an 84. I go, I don't know if she's like I think maybe people in school get I think it's an A, B, C thing. It's not. It's, the perfect score is you passed with the minimum, right?
How many people do you think would give their left pinky finger for an 84?
Yeah. I couldn't believe she's still beating herself up. I go, and I was trying to tell her that it's diminishing returns at some point. So Nima, I want you to get in better than 77? I do. But it's not like you're gonna start getting a 90. And I don't know about you, Brian, but I'm even more suspicious when they start getting in that 90 range because I'm afraid that maybe they're memorizing questions and answers rather than.
Same thing I think too. Yeah.
By the way, she did your practice exam and she scored a 77, which I told her was very good. She was she was missing some in the front part because we were doing it on a shared screen. And then I gave her the opportunity to give up, because she was really in a bad spot. But, in the real test, you got to gather yourself. And at that point, she was not doing well. And then she had a great run in the second half. She got that 77 on yours. And then she went to do a cap. And I said, now, listen, that's probably going to drop a little bit. It doesn't have the same thing, but she still went up. So she's on upward move. Test tomorrow. I like it. So make sure you get some sleep. Again, I can't emphasize that you want to be rested.
Good night, Christopher.
Yeah, go to bed.
In the morning. You're done.
The passing, making your mark, getting the P, as Brian says.
Good night.
Juan, well, thank you so much, Juan. It's always neat to have victorious test takers, and it's very gratifying to see people matriculate through their exams.
Wow.
Well, Brian, you're not as active on as some of the other social media things, but I just want to let you know, we've been getting, both of us, a lot of love on Reddit and Facebook. And so, I always say thank you on your behalf, So.
I do get messages from those who are on social media.
Good.
Yeah. So that's great. Excellent.
Tomorrow, really same thing. Go to sleep.
Good night.
Go to sleep. This is RTFQ, RTFA from yours truly saying, make sure you read full questions. Make sure you read full answer sets. I don't know about you, but when I'm not well rested, my reading skills are greatly diminished. And I just, and that's not where you want to be. You want to be bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to go take on the world, I always tell people, if you have Brian's product, his supplement, he has a PDF that comes with. And in the practice exam, what I tell people to do, Brian, a lot is the night before the exam or morning of the exam or both, just to read your practice questions and the right answers. I said, sometimes that just gets you in the flow, right? Because FINRA NASAA exams aren't a natural circadian rhythm. I don't think people, that's natural, right? So if you can do something to kind of get in the flow, that might be helpful. Series 7, North Carolina, Brooks. So you are a crew member at Vanguard. LPL has a big operation out there. It's none of our business. You don't have to tell us if you put things in the chat. It's, you're putting
Charlotte. It could be one of many different financial firms.
Yeah, Bank of America. I mean, yeah, who would have think of Charlotte's like? I don't know if you're in Charlotte, but that's a hotbed of the financial services industry.
It certainly is.
You know what I don't like though? I can't handle states that have package stores. I just used to, I'm used to like Vegas where I can go into the gas station and get some good beer, So.
I grew up in a state with package stores.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of package stores. You're welcome. Oh, well, thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. Rob, hi, Dean. I'm from the UK. All right, United Kingdom. I hope, Rob, that you can hold it together in the UK. I hear there's some maybe people going their own ways, like Scotland, for example. Taking the Series 7. I got a waiver on the SIE due to being an FCA registered here. There you go. I like that. I actually did some classes. I don't know. Is it Govit? I think it was Govit. I did some classes in the UK. Kind of fun, Brian. They're very similar to our markets. The London Stock Exchange is a model. And so, but the guys in London petitioned for extra time on the exam as foreigners, even though they speak English, which that was ridiculous. Do you think I need to learn anything additional from the SIE? No, I don't. Series 7 content will cover it. No. I don't. I mean, for the most part, stocks are stocks. I mean, it's funny, Rob, when I take my mom traveling internationally, she doesn't do well when I take her to places that aren't similar. Like, she really struggles like in Asia or, Africa. But, when I take her to London, she loves it. I know why she loves it. They speak English. They have tea,
I just bought my better half a ticket to London.
Just for her?
No, for the two of us.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I was wondering, you're sending her.
We've both been there before. How close is the FCA? Do you know?
It's pretty close. I actually bought the course, Rob, for the UK version, and I really thought it was great material. And it was pretty. There's different like vocabulary. Like so they call them like ordinary shares. So every once in a while, there's like you could figure it out though. I mean,
two great countries separated by a common language. Winston Churchill once.
Really? Oh, you might play. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it. It's just getting the channel's been getting a lot of love, and it's really gratifying. So thank you so much. Second thing on the SIE. Well, again, we had a guy today talk about resiliency. I gave him kudos, Christopher. He took the SIE 4 times. I'm like,
Wow.
I want you to pass the first time, but how you respond to that misfortune of not passing, I think is a really big indicator of how you're going to do in the industry. So I would, by the way, once you pass, nobody cares how many times it took you.
Yeah.
I had a broker. He used to go out and tell people, I took the test 5 times. Everybody knows this stuff. It's me. I had to take the damn test 5 times. People invest with you because they like you and they trust you. And then a lot of firms do like to see how you respond to that. So I wish people responded. I will link to a video about you failed as you're over, and spoiler alert, it's not. But I don't know, Brian, your thoughts when you were training at the company where you had to tell your boss whether somebody's going to pass or not. I think when people are worried about whether SIE doesn't require sponsorship, but when the sponsorship people are worried about whether they're going to get another shot, I wish they knew how important their response is in terms of their firm's reaction to it. How you go in there and say, I'm going to get it next time. And, I don't think it's a good idea to start blaming your test prep vendor and blaming, the bad draw. You want to say, I'm going to get it next time. There you go. Yeah, I barely made it through this 24 class. And tonight, by the way, this is the last one of the year. Tomorrow, next Tuesday, we're all going to be, and I hope you are too, having fun and fellowship and, over the holidays. So we will not be doing next Tuesday. So I thought, well, if I can suck it up this last Tuesday, then I get that break and I'm done teaching and tutoring. I'm going dark tomorrow. And so hopefully I'll get some recovery time in.
Yeah. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going dark as well.
There you go. Series 4, Jamil. I just had somebody who passed the Series 4 on the channel. I think I'll let Brian comment. I think we're pretty simpatico on this. I think where a lot of people blow it is they think they're going to get all kinds of strangles and, ratio rights and, all kinds of crazy stuff, condors and butterflies, and they don't. It's, mainly sales supervision. There is some strategy. It's mainly sales supervision. Your point, what would your comment be?
Absolutely. Everybody is kind of surprised as to how few strategy questions they ask. You're absolutely right, Dean. It's all about supervising the reps and their customers' trades.
Yeah.
It's really not a whole lot about strategies. Yeah,
you don't want to go down one of these rabbit holes on the 4, which is very easy to do.
Now, I think depending on how long it's been since he's taken the 7, where he got the basic option strategies, if it's been a while, then I would probably
you got to
review a little bit the hedges, the spreads, and straddles. You
definitely got to know that. The other thing I would say is make sure that you understand it's a different flavor. What I mean by different flavor is, as a supervisor, I love a credit spread. And here's why, Jamel. I'll just give you an example. Let me just punch up here. Apple, for example. Let me put a little B here. So Apple right now, Jamel, let's call it the stock is, let's call it 150. So if you were going to write a naked 150 call, I'm going to ask you for 20% of the market value. So let's say you're doing 10 contracts. That would be $150,000 in market value. Now I'm going to ask you for a margin of 30,000, 20%, plus the current premium. So let's say the premium is 9. So 10 contracts, that's 9,000. So now we're at 39,000. I'm going to ask you to, you can subtract from that, Jamel, the amount the contract's out of the money on the assumption that you're not going to have to perform. So in that situation, to write a naked call on Apple at 150, 10 contracts with Apple at 150, premium 9, the margin is 39,000. So I say, Jamel, why in the hell would you want to do that? Why don't you just take part of your 9 and buy a 160 call for 2? So, that's going to be $2,000. So now you're out $7,000. You brought in 7, but, instead of 9. But now I'm just going to ask you for the $3,000. Right, which you can lose in the spread. So it just makes that whole margin requirement just go poof, right? So we just love credit spreads. We don't really care at all about debit spreads. Again, we don't care there because, it's a different flavor on the 4. And by the way, if you're a 9, same thing. We don't care because it's pretty easy on a debit spread or any kind of a debit position, call, straddle. is this money you can afford to lose, period, full stop, end of compliance, right? So that's what I would just tell you. Make sure you're paying attention to the flavor of things. One last thing I would add to that. The minimum maintenance on that position on Apple at all times is going to be 10% of the market value plus the current premium. I think that makes sense because that current premium means we can do the closing transaction. I can do the closing purchase to, close you out if something kind of goes south. So that's minimum maintenance. And that's the kind of flavor you kind of want to be paying attention to. And if you really get stuck, Brian and I both believe in a T. And one of the reasons I believe in a T so strongly, contract specifications. Do you know a short put is an obligation to buy the stock? And then can you track money? If you get some outrageous kind of position, Jamel, on the Series 4, there's nothing that a T can't drain the swamp in. But I mean, if you get something you're not quite sure is what is the hell is this thing I'm looking at? If you get your T and you simply go through and plug in and out, and then the numbers they offer you, you can plug back into the T, assuming you know Brian's point calls and in the money and that kind of thing. And you can just try a trial and error until you get the number that is the break even or whatever it is they're asking. So anyways, that's my commentary for 4 and for 9. Christopher's taking a 7. Benita, thank you so much. I passed the SIE last Monday. Woo! Started studying for the 6. Right on. Next day. By the way, I've told people this, Benita. If you really overlearn the SIE, I think you can almost pass out of a Series 6. I mean, the Series 6 shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. I mean, I don't want to jinx you, but it shouldn't be difficult. I mean, if you can pass the SIE, we have every expectation you can pass the Series 6. Brian, what are your thoughts about SIE?
I was thinking the exact same. You must have been reading my mind. I'm sitting here thinking she might be able to get this done by December 31st, January 3rd. I don't know. Wait until January 22nd.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Brian's right. I mean, if you feel comfortable, you take a practice test, maybe get this thing done.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. If even I always say SIE is so important to that initial down payment you're making on your testing journey, because you can't test out of a 7 with an SIE, but you're still laying the foundation for your 7 in a good way. So that, you don't want to, if you can avoid getting wobbly on the SIE and really just put in the time and the energy, it will really pay big dividends for whatever your next leg is. Series 7 on the 28th, like it. 28th of December. So that's coming up. That's next week. Woo-hoo. You're welcome, Robbie. You're welcome. There you go. On to the 65. Woo-hoo. Now, are you, my guess is, Robbie, and you can let us know in chat, are you taking the SIE and the 65 because you don't have sponsorship? And is that why there's a gap? And I don't see a 6 or a 7 here. Is that kind of what's going on? I might suggest to you, Robbie, if you are in that situation and you are looking for sponsorship, you might want to add the 63 to that mix, because then you would have an SIE 63, 65. You don't need a 63 to make that 65 work for a fee-based investment advisory firm. But if you have the 63, then the sponsoring firm knows they just get you a 7 or a 6 and you're good to go depending on the firm. So what do you think, Brian? You think that's a good idea?
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. If you go from the SIE to 65, it probably means you don't have a sponsor.
Yeah.
Because that's both FINRA and IA. It's two completely different things.
Yeah. Do you feel Kaplan exams are harder? I do, Derek. But I told somebody that they had done Brian's test and they were going to do Kaplan. I told them I thought they were going to go down because Kaplan is tougher. They went up. So, but in general, I do think Kaplan in general on all the exams by design is tougher than the actual exam. Brian and I, don't get us going, Derek, on our rant, but the test prep vendors, I had one today, Brian, and the rationale said, well, you will not see this on your actual exam. We think I forget what it was, some flowery thing like we want you to be comfortable with. I'm like, why? Right. So, but in general, I think Kaplan is tougher. Brian, your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, to be honest with you, for the SIEs, those textbooks go so far above and beyond where the SIE really goes. It really does. I mean, they start
Brian
straddles and things on the SIE. That's just ridiculous.
Brian always likes, Derek, to remind people that we're here for content. And I know how much he loves his whiteboard. And so the other part of this comment, Brian, is could you go over buy and sell stop limit orders? So let me comment. Maybe we'll inspire Brian to use a whiteboard. If he doesn't, Derek, I will link to a lecture video I have on types of orders. Now, I think where most people, Derek, get hung up on types of orders is they don't distinguish between a buy stop, a sell stop, where when we trade at or through, it becomes a market order, immediate execution, best available price, versus a buy stop limit and a sell stop limit, where now we pull the trigger and it's our price or better. So that's where I think there's a little bit of a mind meld. Now, it is very testable about where we place orders in relationship to the current market price. And so whether I want a buy stop that turns into a market order or a buy stop that turns into a limit order, I would tell you, Derek, that a buy stop limit is not very smart. Because with a buy stop limit, you're telling me you want to go home, but only if you can do so at your price or better, which I think is kind of foolish. In a buy stop, you're saying, hey, if it trades at or through, pull the trigger. The number one use of stop orders is stop losses, but they can also be used to protect profits. They can also be used to establish stock positions. We had a series 4 with us earlier, Derek, and he's held accountable to know options versus order equivalents. It's not something we need to worry about on these exams. So I just was using Apple, Derek. Apple's at 150. And so you tell me, Dean, I want to buy Apple if it trades at or through 153. That's a buy stop. It's above the market. If Apple trades at or through 153, boom, immediate execution, best available price. If you tell me, Dean, buy stop limit 153, now I got to be a little more careful on the test because I'm going to show you a sequence of trades. And I'm going to ask you, does this order ever get triggered or elected or does it get filled? And then we go, okay, there's a trade at 153. By the way, it could be 153 or 1 at or through. And then I got to say, okay, is it a market order? Because the next trade is my customers. Or is it a limit order? Then I got to go through the sequence of trades. Derek, sell stops, whether you want a sell stop that turns into a market order or a sell stop that turns into a limit order, that's below the market. So if Apple's at 150, you say, Dean, I want to place a sell stop at 147. Maybe you bought the stock at 150 and you want to stop the loss at approximately 3 points. And again, sequence of trades, we're looking at the trades, goes through 147, at or through, live market order or live limit order. Remember, a stop without the limit has one qualifier, one contingency. Stop limit has 2. Now, the mnemonic we have, Derek, for all orders that is worth a lot of points on the exam, SIE and Series 7, is slobs over bliss. Slobs over bliss. Sell limits and buy stops are above the current market price, and buy limits and sell stops are below the current market price. Brian, no board work. You just think that's sufficient? It's up to you.
Yes.
Okay. And then, Derek, I will link to a video where you can, I go over limit orders. Derek, put in chat what you prefer. I have a video where you can watch Dean do it as a lecture, and I have a video where you can watch me in a class do it together. So you tell me in chat which one you prefer, and I will link it for you. Oh, by the way, Brian, I told you I taught 24 today. I sent them to your buy and sell out video. I said, I know you guys think this is not truthful, but it'll change your life. Will there be anything changing in the 2024 exam? No, the RMD has been changed. It's been tested as 73 for a long time. That's not changing. You should definitely know the RMD is 73. You should definitely know that Ross don't have RMDs. So that's been testable. It still is testable. I don't know. Will it always be testable? I don't know. Don't get us started, Brian, but here's another legacy question. I hate it. Somebody was chatting up in social media today how they're so proud of themselves for calculating mill rates on a GO bond. Have you had anybody in years tell you they've had to calculate mill rates on the GO bond? I haven't.
No. Oh, God, no.
And then I rained on their parade, and they took, I said, and the other thing that I haven't had anybody tell me they've had in years is pro golfers don't miss.
Right.
Pre-sale group. I had that on my last test. And I said, well, if you did, it was the wrong answer. So
pretty girls drive Mercedes.
Yeah, or pretty guys, whatever your sex. There was all kinds of them floating around, right? How important is a cheat sheet? Really, I think it depends, Casey, on the individual. Here's what I think about. I don't call it a cheat sheet. Brian does. I don't like calling it that. I call it a data dump because Casey, I'm just afraid that someday somebody's going to label it a cheat sheet and accidentally email it to the site. And anyways, if I told you could have one sheet of paper on it with anything on it, front and back, what would you put on there? Now, I know, for example, if I was taking a Series 7, and I may or may not do a data dump, I'm just telling you if I was, I would probably have my matrix. I would think, what do you call it, Brian? Your gymnastic thing? What do you call your matrix?
Options aerobics.
Options aerobics. I would have that. My teeter totter, slobs over bliss. Now, here's my thoughts on that. If you made that model sheet, Casey, and every night before you went to bed and every morning when you woke up, you tried to data dump that, by test time, you would be able to actually do that with the sheet of paper they give you. That's not cheating. And I do think for some people, particularly those that have test anxiety, that I think it can be helpful as you're doing your data dump sheet to just get your mind kind of focused, right? So I think it has that kind of a good placebo effect. There are some people who swear by having a data dump sheet or cheat sheet, and you can certainly Google that, Casey, and there's all kinds of different versions of this. I would caution you to make it your own. Don't steal somebody else's.
Right.
Make it your own, because what somebody else thinks is important and what you think is important could be different. And I try and organize a data dump sheet by geography on my page. So I like to have my options one place, my bond stuff another. For example, I don't like to have a formula page. I like my formulas by subject area where I need them, like tax-free and tax equivalent. If you're using Kaplan and you have the class notebook in the back, there's percentages and formulas. There's some good ideas there. So I think it's based on the individual. I think it's tougher for certain exams. I think 65, it's hard to come up with a cheat sheet. I think 7 lends itself well to it. 24 were asking me today. I go, I can't even think of a 24 cheat sheet to begin with. But 7, my feedback from test takers has been, again, what I told you, it varies from person to person about whether they like it. Some people love it. Some people find it counterproductive. You have to start the clock, but you can pretend you don't. Your thoughts, Brian, on cheat sheets?
Ditto. One thing I might add is my definitions of persons, separating the federal IAs and the state IAs, federal IARs and state IARs. But you're absolutely right. If you do this every single day, by test day, you'll own it.
Yeah, and you probably have to, Casey, not only doing the data dump, but practice, drilling, rehearse. I was just talking about the young lady, Casey, that I've been tutoring. And Brian does have, if you have his PDF, he has what he calls a cheat sheet where he does exactly that. And, when I'm using Brian's content for tutoring, I basically have them put themselves in the boxes that Brian has and say, okay, let's talk about you. And, and I was just chatting her up through practice, drilling, rehearsing. Oh my God, the improvement was just incredible. I mean, she got to the point where she could just readily see this is a federally covered investment advisor. And then when we're doing Brian's, that all the other states Brian puts in there are meaningless to this question. All she has to look for is place of business. Right. She knows now it's state. Oh, okay, I got to be worried about de minimis. And so I would say combination of perhaps a cheat sheet, but I also think, and then in context of practice, drilling, and rehearsing. And Brian and I disagree about numbers of questions that perhaps you should take. She's probably done 4 practice exams with increasing scores. But in her case, I think it's really promoting her confidence, and she's getting better at the pivots, where to pivot on certain things. And that comes from practice, drilling, and rehearsing. So I would add practice, drill, and rehearse to the cheat sheet is what I would add. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I remember Jamel. I think I remember, if you're the same Jamel from last year, I remember, I think we had you participating, or another Jamel who was rocking and rolling through the test, taking the SIE and the Series 7. And I think it's the same. I don't know if you're the same Jamel, but yeah. Well, kudos, General Securities principle, right? First time. All right. You're going to take and pass the first time. That's the best way to do it. I don't know what would surprise you, Kyle. It depends on, tomorrow. I don't think you should. It depends on the execution of your study plan. If you've executed your study plan well, I don't think there should be anything surprising. I mean, if you have a reputable test prep vendor, Pass Perfect, STC, Kaplan, you have a paid supplement like Brian's, you've been watching my channel, I can't imagine there'd be anything that would surprise you. No. Usually I find when people are surprised, it's a function of lack of execution of a study plan, I guess. There's some hole they haven't discovered. you know, it is a discovery process. Even I told you, young lady, I'm so proud of. She is still finding things she doesn't know. And I was trying to reassure her that that will be happening all the way up until test time. You're not, you know, you're always going to find some little thing that, you know, you didn't know. So you just got to be comfortable with the process.
I don't know if I've heard anything on the 66. I haven't heard.
Yeah.
I think the 66 is probably one.
Every once in a while, Kyle, we like Brian does a real good job on debrief. So I guess, you know, I'll just put this out there. I think this is BS for people who say that people like Brian and I don't know what's on the exam. Now, we're not allowed to ask you what is question 35, but my God, we spend hundreds of hours with people taking these tests. So we do, Kyle, you know, have a pretty good idea of low probability and high probability what you're going to see. But every once in a while I get one, Kyle. This is one Brian brought up to me. He had somebody said they saw something on a SPAC, and Brian asked me, and I go, I have no clue. I mean, is that really a test question? And Brian said, well, I've heard. And then, you know, he told me what the answer was. And then I don't know if it's like a self-fulfilling kind of a thing, but now, Brian, I get all kinds of people telling me they've seen that and, you know, they know what the ansor is. So I guess I would say, if you listen to Brian or Dean, Kyle, you won't be surprised. I'm sorry, what's that, Brian?
The fixed unit price for a SPAC.
Yeah, $10. At $10 for a SPAC, yeah. So, Kyle, if you follow Dean and Brian, you will not be surprised. Subscribe to Brian's for educational video in 2019. Do you have a video with current updated information and you need a tutor? So, Yeti, both Brian and I tutor. I'm kind of booked pretty solid. And I think Brian is upping his price, but I think Brian, what, $90 an hour if he chooses to take you on as a tutoring customer. And I think, what, you tell $125 next year?
Yeah. I believe I got an email from Yeti, if I'm not mistaken.
What do you think about 2019, Yeti? Just let me give you my comment. I think Brian's videos from 2019 are as good as the day they made them on 2019. But the updates, Brian usually does it as an addendum. Am I right, Brian?
That's right.
Yeah, I think I pronounce that right. Everybody tells me I don't do a good job on the enunciation of addendum. But yeah, and then we have videos. Brian and I did a collaboration on podcast on the 66, our 65. What we're working on 66. We did the entire 65 podcast series, and we have a whole video and update. So,
yeah.
How often do you host these live Q&As? We do it every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time, Brooke. So, except next Tuesday, because you know we all have families. Brian has significant other, and you know I have family, so we won't be broadcasting Tuesday. It's next Tuesday to the following Tuesday, which I think is what, January, whatever. It's there. The link, you can always find the link in the playlist live. And I usually put the link in the front of the channel, but you can always go to live and the next one will be there with the link. So every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Brian is always our very special VIP guest as the Test Geek managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. But, you know, he can choose to join us or not. I would imagine if he's taking his significant other, Stacy, to London and it's a Tuesday, he's probably not going to be joining us.
Probably not. No.
Yeah, he's going to be watching the changing of the guard.
Yeah. Or drinking in a pub.
Isn't that fun? They have pubs that are older than our country in the UK.
I know.
Crazy. Passed the Series 32 earlier in the year and found out it's very helpful. There you go. So Rob is, you know, we have other successful test takers in the chat. So you don't have to take Brian and I's word for things. You can always check with one of our victorious test takers. STC provides one. Yeah, they have what's called crunch time facts, Rob. Kaplan has what are called quick sheets. And I think the quick sheets from Kaplan are pretty decent. And then Brian has his version as a PDF and he calls it class notes. And if you don't want to buy the videos, I don't know why you wouldn't, but you can buy separately his PDF of his class notes, which is very similar to Crunch Time Facts at STC and Kaplan's quick sheets. And I think that's $40-something, Brian.
Depending on which one it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it comes with the practice exam, and those practice exams are awesome. So if you are taking a 65 or 66, I would recommend as a model of a cheat sheet. In fact, Brian calls it, to my dismay, a cheat sheet, where he, you know, tells you these things we've been talking about. I highly recommend that. And I think it's like $40 for that with the practice exam. The practice exam is like $20. And then Kaplan, I'm not allowed to sell these anymore because I was charging people like $50. And Kaplan, I think, says they're like $19. I was telling Brian, I hope Brian sells as many as Kaplan. Kaplan's telling me this is like $1 million product. They sell like millions of dollars of these things. I'm like, God, you are welcome. You're welcome. Where do you get the cheat sheet? Well, if you want a cheat sheet, Brian's cheat sheet, he calls it the cheat sheet. Test Geek Exam Prep LLC.
I sell class notes, not cheat sheets.
What's that?
I sell class notes, not cheat sheets.
Does the class note have a cheat sheet in it or not? Am I
Oh,
right?
I have several, depending on how you want to classify. Yeah.
So you can reach out to Brian. There's Brian's Teachable site.
That's where the
There's
video.
Brian's email. If you want to send Brian an email,
Please
and ask him. Yeah, you can send that to him and say, hey, you were talking about this thing. What is this thing? Yeah.
I believe I got an email from Yeti, and if I did not respond to it, I apologize. I try to get to all of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fall through the cracks, so I apologize.
I'm with you. Brian, I am finding myself apologizing more and more just because, when you're busy, I'm a one-man band, and, I think, Brian, we don't want to be multi-billion-dollar test prep vendors, but we're blessed that we're busy. But boy, I just, when you get too many emails, it's just difficult. So I'm trying to figure out, one of my New Year's resolution, Brian, is how to sort or get that flow under control. And if that means bringing in somebody part-time just to do it, I might have to do it.
It always crosses my mind. Always crosses my mind.
Maybe we can find somebody to share.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll find somebody we can share, right? I can't thank you both enough for everything. Big old P. I like it. The big old P on the 66 going into Christmas.
What I love.
I am so with you, man.
The big P.
Any life advice tips? Well, we help with test prep. We don't test with life tips. I would tell you, Aaron, I just had this conversation in my 24 class today. If I were young and starting out in the business, here's the advice I would give you. I would be much more interested in the learning experience and the people I'm working with than I would be if I can. I understand sometimes money is something that you need, but assuming the economics are the same, I would want to be a place where there's a learning experience and there's people I want to spend time with, because you're going to spend more time in the brokerage business with the people you work with sometimes than your family. And I get a little disappointed, Aaron, when sometimes, like, I had a guy who was disappointed because he took a job and he's talking to confused customers all day. And I was trying to tell him how important that will be in his learning curve, because if you're talking to, if you're working the IRA desk and you're answering, 2,000 calls on IRAs a week, at the end of 2 weeks, you're going to be an expert on IRAs. Whereas if you're like a retail broker, you got to go find customers. And so anyways, that's what I would be my advice for starting out in the securities industry. The learning curve is very, very steep. If you can find a mentor, I would highly recommend that as well. What about you, Brian? Any life advice?
I've worked both on the retail side and the institutional side. And both the learning curves are very, very steep. It's learn as much as you can.
Yeah. One thing, Aaron, I've been very disappointed. I know a lot of people are trying to get their cohorts to come back into the office, but it's hard now, because a big part of our business has been, the human capital that shows up every day and gets off the elevator and we hope comes back tomorrow. But it's harder, I think, to have those nourishing mentorships when we're all working remotely. So I kind of understand the, firms that are trying to get their people to come back to the office, so you can learn from other folks. I'm just joking, Aaron, about the testing. And Brian, I know if it's like a campus and we're teaching on campus and there's 30 members of the cohort and you have a bad day, there's 29 other students that can take you to lunch or buy you an adult beverage afterwards, buck you up. You got some victorious test takers. And Brooke, that's one of the reasons I started this Tuesday, is so that at least we can, we can't take the place of that, but at least there's a place where there are people in a similar situation trying to do what you're trying to do. You're not all alone. And I think sometimes trying to do this on your own is really, I think, much tougher than the old model where we do it all together, right? I have sponsorship, but that's the plan they put me on. I like it. Okay. There you go. Thanks, Dean and Brian. I took your advice by overlaying the SIE. I wasn't sure about when to schedule while waiting to complete the U4. Yeah, just, learn as much as you possibly can. Nico, I owe you a coaching call. And I think that you did ask me, to do it at the beginning of next year, I think. If not, just send me another email. Say, hey, Dean, you flake. Where's my coaching call? Final tip. Would it be more beneficial to a bunch of Kaplan questions? Oh, well, there you go. My bad, Nico. As soon as we are done, I will send you that email and we'll try and figure out when you're going to do it. When is your final attempt? When is the date for your final attempt? I'll answer that in the email, and I'll make it a point to get that coaching call to you. So we do it in a timely fashion. I'm not sure how to answer doing a bunch of Kaplan questions. I kind of don't like that because as a Marine, it sounds kind of scattered to me. Where, what I would like to be is a little more focused. So I would have preferred, shall I do a couple Kaplan practice tests? And that sounds a little better to me than a bunch of Kaplan questions. We're not trying to learn by missing questions. We're trying to get marks. So I would know, I need more context, Nico, on that. When we reach out with an email and a Zoom invite, we can talk about that and decide what to do, right? But if you have a practice test score, I'd be interested in knowing what that is. Hello, Ivy. How are you? Yeah, 3 million. Can you believe that? Taking the Series 7 Friday. Any tips? Well, we've kind of talked about the tips. I do have, and I'll link Jacob in the video description. I always link to videos that I recommend. And this one is the day before the exam. So, what do I think you should be doing the day before the exam? On the top of that list is trying to reduce anxiety as much as possible, but also getting a good night's rest. Right. So you're in the 70, 74 range. I like that. I think that's a pretty tight range, 74 or 74. But Brian and I both think that range makes you safe. Yeah. We would have every expectation that you would pass based on that score. So I'd be surprised with that score. What I tell people is to finish strong. I had a guy in social media and he asked about, I think he had a 68. And what do you think? And I said, well, it's kind of a half full, half empty kind of thing on the glass being half full or empty. I think you're going to pass, but you're still in danger. You're at risk. And so I want you to finish strong. You got to, if you're in that below 70 range, which you're not, but he was, I said, you got to finish strong. And he finished strong. I was proud of him and he passed. So what do you think, Brian? Any tips?
Yeah. Well, rinse and repeat, repeat.
Yeah. Finish.
Evaluate, remediate.
Yeah. That is atypical, Robbie, I think, but so they're getting, you see saying, Brian, they're going to have him do an SIE, a 65, and then state life and annuity. And is that atypical out of how most people do it? And my answer is yes. But
it is atypical. And it gets me to thinking, but this might not be your place to think out loud.
Well, maybe, Robbie, you want to send myself an email, Dean the Series 7 Guru @gmail.com, or Brian, and maybe with more information, we can be a little more helpful. I don't know, Kimberly, if we can go over spreads and straddles for the Series 7. I will link, Kimberly. We have many, many videos on spreads and straddles, and I will link to a couple of them. Again, you can watch me do it. I will tell you, Kimberly, there are 8 test questions about spreads. And the 8 test questions about spreads, I call it don't hate the 8, is can you identify a spread? Test question number 1 on Series 7 is, can you identify a spread? Long and short, the same type of contract. Test question number 2, can you determine if it's a debit or credit spread? Do you have more money out than in, or more money in than out? Test question number 3, do you want the contracts to exercise or expire? Are you going to be a happy camper if you have a spread and the contracts are exercised or they expire? Test question number 4, do you want the contracts to widen or narrow? Now, as you see there, those are linked. Brian's got them there. So I think of Mountain Dew, just do the do, or Nike, do it, or when you're Dean and you're wide, you need to exercise. I joke, Kimberly, but in some cultures, being overweight, being wide is a sign of wealth and prosperity. Unfortunately, not our culture. So credit, expire, narrow. Credit has 6 letters, expire has 6 letters, narrow has 6 letters. Now, wide and narrow is the hardest concept to get, and you don't need to get it, right? The next thing you got to be able to do is determine max gain. And for a credit spread, it's going to be the credit. And for the debit, it's going to be the difference in the strikes less the debit. But those 2 numbers, max gain, max loss, that's our next one, is going to add up to the difference in the strikes. Test question number 7 is, can you calculate the break even? And for break even, we have 2 memory devices, call, add to the lower. So if it's a call spread, doesn't matter if it's debit or credit, we're going to add the net premium to the lower strike. If it's a put, we're going to subtract the net premium from the higher strikes. That's call or push. Don't hate the 8. The last thing we got to be able to do is determine whether it's bullish or bearish. Do we want the stock to go up or do we want the stock to go down? And there we have a couple of things we can use. Larger premium dominates the position, or we have a trick called bulls. Bulls. And bull stands for because you're long the lower strike. In any spread, if you're long the lower strike, you're a bull. Now, I will link, Kimberly, in the video description to a couple of my favorite lectures on spreads. I think straddles are a little more straightforward. So there are 4 test questions on straddles. So I call that first version, Kimberly, don't hate the 8. I call this score for more. Score for more. The 4 test questions on a straddle is, once again, can you identify it? Now, even if that wasn't a test question, I just told you it is. But even if it wasn't, it is. If you can't identify, you don't know what to do next. You're just going to be staring at it going, I don't know, B. Once you ID it, you got to calculate the break-evens. That's our second test question. It's the only strategy in which we have 2 break-evens. We have an upside break-even, and we have a downside break-even. I was giving Brian his board space there. To be. I like it. To be or not to be. Our third test question is, where is the straddle profitable? And we do indeed have a good memory aid device for this called Silo. Silo. And what Silo stands for is short inside, long outside. If it's a short straddle, we want the market price of the stock to be in between those 2 numbers. And if it's long, we want it outside. Oh, he's giving you a little visual. Love it. Right? Boom. And I call it the matrix, and you call it the aerobics. There we go. You say tomato, I say tomato. And then the last test question, Kimberly, about a straddle is, when do you use it? You buy a straddle when you're expecting volatility, but direction is uncertain. And you sell a straddle when you're expecting it to stay within the trading range, within those break-evens. So there you go. Those, Kimberly, are the advanced option strategies covered on the Series 7. There are 9 option strategies you're held accountable for, and these are speculative, right? You have your basics, you have your hedges, and then you got these. So hope that was helpful. I will link to a lecture on spreads and straddles where you can actually kind of try them yourself, right? You can do them. I have long versions, short versions. I have, one of the reasons you want to buy Brian's videos is because he makes editorial decisions. He distills the potatoes into vodka, and I do not. I do not.
Putting mashed potatoes in the
I have. I don't know why. I think the other day, Brian, I had 130 option videos in the playlist. So.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Send Brian's link. What link would you like, my friend? Would you like the link to his email or email? That's the Teachable, where you can find his videos.
That's where the videos.
And then the Guru 20 is the discount code if you want to go buy Brian's content, which I think is the best out there. Yeah. I'm prejudiced, but what can I tell you? All right. So let's see where we at. That was Kimberly asking about spreads and straddles. Erica, boy, I haven't seen you in a long time. Wow. Good to have you back. Good to have you back. I see her in the chat. I'm just trying to find where our last my spot was. I lost my spot here with Kimberly. Jamel, we did that already. Could you please explain about the money supply in relation to import and export? Well, the better decision there, Yeti. I'm going to do that.
There's Yeti.
But the way I'm going to do it, it's not the money supply, it's interest rates. It's interest rates that will cause the dollar to go up or down. So that is roundabout connected to the money supply. I would imagine you're either taking the SIE or the 65, and I will link to an economics lecture. But when interest rates go up, it causes the dollar to be strong. And when the dollar is strong, it has, in terms of the balance of trade, it causes U.S. imports to rise, right? Because if the dollar is going up, I buy more tequila, right? If it takes 10 pesos to get a bottle dollar, and now it's 20 pesos for $1, my $40 tequila is now $20 tequila. Now, if I'm selling my Mexican friends, AMLO is the presidente down there. He's building a an airport and a train in Yucatan and an oil refinery. And, if our Mexican friends want to buy Caterpillar bulldozers, it's going to take them twice as many, pesos to do so. So when interest rates go up, that is part of what the Fed has been doing lately. They're taking a pause. They're contracting the money supply. And typically when the money supply goes down, interest rates go up and tools of the Fed are testable. But that's what that looks like. Now, when the dollar goes down, now it's easier for Boeing to sell their airplanes and Caterpillar to sell their bulldozers. So a weak dollar causes U.S. exports to go up and U.S. imports to go down, right? Because now it takes me more dollars to buy my scotch or my European wine, whatever the case may be. And again, that's tied into, you say import or export, but the way we sometimes ask on the test is the balance of trade and whether it's a trade deficit or a trade surplus. So a strong dollar leads to a trade deficit and a weak dollar leads to a trade surplus, even though I hate that because, I'm an economic geek and I don't really think it's necessary that you would have deficit. In other words, I kind of like the strong dollar because I buy tequila, but, other people, that's going to be bad news. Okay, even though I received a 68. Okay. 20-ish days. Okay, Nico. So we have some time. So why don't you and I do that in the coaching call? Your coaching call is 30 minutes, but I'm more than happy to go a little over with you. So we'll just start up there, come up with the plan, and then think about what you want to talk about in your coaching call. Series 7 tomorrow. Ooh, Laura, I like that. Is that Japanese or Chinese? What are those things? I'm jealous. That looks pretty cool. She's got you see the signs there?
Yeah, I see him. Yep.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Get a good night's rest. 86. Oh my God, Laura, you got this. I don't know, Laura. Can you put the question into the chat? If you can put the QID in the chat. If not, I'll post it in a video on the channel later. 1265551. If you can tell me the question in the chat, I'm more than happy to walk you through it. If not, Laura, as soon as we're done with the live stream, which is coming to a close here pretty quickly, I will look that up in the QID and see if I can post you a little video. And again, you are correct. I say don't overdose. You're going to get 3 or 4 margin questions max. Thanks, Annette. Past 7 November 1st. Woohoo. Taking the 66 again on January 5th. So, it looks like you got a little bump in the road and you're going to get that. 7 to 9 days. There you go. I wouldn't worry about margin. Muni bonds, I'd worry about, Allie, but margin, I wouldn't worry about. Any cheat sheet data dump ideas for me in those areas? Well, I would know the classical margin equations, and I will link, Allie, to a margin lecture for you. Long market value minus debit equals equity. Credit minus short market value equals equity. And a lot of times, Allie, what you have to be able to do, and maybe this is helpful for Laura, you have to do an initial setup and then the mark to market. And I find it's where, people struggle is doing the initial setup and then the mark to market. Erica, always good to have you in the house. You are an esteemed alum. Welcome to our live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. I didn't receive your email. I'll check in every folder. Okay, there you go.
I'll check again tomorrow morning.
Yeah, okay. Kim from Cali, 7 tomorrow. Do you have any tips not to get confused with options? Well, it's too late. Kimberly, spreads, remember, are long and short, the same type of contract. Spread always means difference, right? What's the spread on the game tonight? So spread means you're going to net something, right? I say, hey, Brian, what's the spread on the game tonight? He said, the spread's 13. So what we're betting on is the difference in the scores. And some people would want that to be outside of 13 to win, and some people want it inside of 13 to win. So remember, the way you identify it is buy and sell the same type, right? If it's a buy-sell, you net, and that's a spread. Straddle, you're straddling the strike price either side. Brian drew you a nice little picture there, I thought, where remember he had the arrows up and the arrows down, and you're straddling the strike price, and that's going to be a buy or sell. When it's buy or sell, you combine premiums. So you're either netting premiums, buy, sell, spread, combining premiums, straddle. So
that's a pretty good quick review. I like that. You never fail to impress me, sir. After 30 years.
What he's really impressed is I could do it in a short amount of time.
Exactly.
How to get Brian's practice test, Roderick World. You get it for $20. Or if you buy it as part of the PDF, you pay $40, I think. Don't hold me accountable to that. Definitely worth the price. But Brian's been kind enough too to allow us to use his content on the channel. And you can watch me do Brian's exam, hit pause, and then you can answer and then see how you did. I don't think, Brian, I've done a shared screen test geek practice exam with anybody. So I think it's just me. But people like other people. I've done some shared screen files on Kaplan stuff. But anyway, so those are your choices. By the way, I hope you remember me saying this. For $20 approximately, it's just the PDF of his exam and his rationale. So every once in a while, somebody will buy it, which I think it's a great deal with $20. And then they'll say, "Oh, I got it was a practice exam." I said, "I thought we were pretty clear. That's what you were getting." So, yeah, practice desk. All right. So we'll talk about it, Nico. We'll figure it out. I don't want to set the wrong example, but I passed the 7 and 65 only using Dean's videos. I don't know if you're the same person, Curtis, but I had another person. Maybe it's a different person. And I think I joke sometimes in my Series 7 videos that there is enough content to pass the test. And this person said, I don't know if it's Curtis, but he said, "Dean, I'm your guinea pig." And I did. I was cheap and I just used your videos. Now, Brian and I, neither one of us are saying that you should do that. Both of us consider our content to be bridges, intermediaries between the test and the test prep vendors. Mine happens to be a free supplement, and Brian's happens to be a paid supplement. So, but hey, Curtis, I'll take it. I have a lot of people on the SIE too. And I think I have sufficient content on the SIE to pass it. But I don't want to put test prep vendors out of work. There you go. There you go. Any of this shows up. I don't know what you mean any of this shows up. I'm not sure what you mean, Charles. None of that advanced option strategy we did for Kimberly shows up on 66. None. 66, maybe one option question like a put, and you should be prepared for that based on your previous exams. Strangle. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see strangles. Your last question. Oh, yeah, no, that's not going to be on 66 at all. Oh, there you go. I like it. I like it. I can tell some of my Chinese students, Laura, when they're nice because they give me the English version of their name, which I know is probably not their real name. All right, well, it's time for the drawing. So let me go get our. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Laura just put up a hedge margin question.
Oh, okay.
So we can solve that very quickly. It's not on the test.
Yeah.
A hedge
new margin account. Yeah, I think it's test prep vendor, but we can certainly, I'll do it real quick for you, Lo, before we get our drawing done here. Yeah. So I'm going to buy 300 shares at 48, right? So I'm just getting my calculator, 300 times 48. And you're going to need half of that. So half of that is 7,200, but you already have of that 7,200, $300 from selling the calls. So now we're going to minus the 300, and the answer to your question is 6,900. So again, I'll just walk you through what I did, Laura. Again, I think you said you're testing tomorrow, and I'm with Brian. This is not something you should be doing.
Please don't waste time like this.
But yeah, 300 times 48 is 14.4 times 50%. You should definitely know 50%. That's 7,200, but you could use the money from the calls, which is 300. It's 6,900. All right. So what is going to be our word for the drawing? Noel, I love it. You were so good at picking things. So if you want to participate in the drawing in the chat, please enter Noel. And I will bring this up on a shared screen so we can see the drawing in real time. Boom. And let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of that. Boom. Let me get rid of this. Shared screen. Window, boom. So let's make this full space. And there we go. And if you win, you send me, let me get that going. Banner. Oh, what happened there? Banner. There we go. You send me the email. All right, 15 entries. Anybody else want to put in their entry? Last call. It doesn't matter, by the way, if you put it in a gazillion times. The drawing, the tool, will only recognize it once. Now, I think it was Nico. He put like the word in like 20 times last time. It doesn't matter. He ended up winning, but it wasn't a function.
Yes, he did.
20 times. All right, 17, last call. Any more takers? 18. Okay, one more. 19. Okay, this could be your good Christmas. It is video recorded. We do share it with others. You can assign it and you can share it. So whatever you want to do with it. All right, here we go. Drawing. Boom. Casey, there you go. So Casey, send me an email. You have won a 30-minute coaching call with yours truly. So we'll set up a Zoom date and time that works for you. And like I say, you can share that. You can assign it to someone else, whatever you'd like to do with it. It is recorded. It is shared. All right. Anything else for us today? Let me get rid of the banner there. Okay. Well, we wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. Good fun and fellowship. And remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. Hold on. I need to take a poll. My mom tells me that I've got that ass backwards, that it should be yard by yard, your exam is hard. Inch by inch, your exam's a cinch. So let me know in chat which version you think. I think the proper phrasing is inch by inch, series 7 is a cinch, or whatever exam you're taking, yard by yard is hard. And Brian, you say?
I say this on many of my practice questions. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Chinese New Year. Have a great evening.
I love it. All right, everybody. See you next Tuesday after next. Bye-bye.